Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's Application Transformation Masterclass. I'm just going to start with a little bit of an introduction to myself and a quick introduction to Avolution for those of you who don't yet work with us. For myself, I'm Nick Stevenson-Steels. I am a consultant here at Avolution, and I work with many of our clients, working with them to help them achieve their enterprise architecture needs, whether that's training in our product or working through different use cases to their business needs. One of those frequent topics, unsurprisingly, is application transformation, which obviously leads to the topic for today's webinar. As for Avolution, again, just a bit more of an introduction. We've recently celebrated our 20th birthday, plenty of offices worldwide, the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant and also in the Forrester Wave. We work in over 100 countries and we've worked with 3,000 companies and counting. So that's a little bit about us. So that takes us to the next point. We've looked at what application transformation is. Hopefully we understand that and we understand why it's important in our workplace. Well, let's have a look at exactly how you can implement it. And we've got 5 key stages that I'm going to go through briefly, just to highlight that. First thing is capturing the data. We can't do anything unless we have that data available to us. And then how do we maintain it? Once you have the data, great, it's live. Data moves constantly. We need to be able to work with live data and keep it up to date. And not only that, we need to be able to analyze it. Having a spreadsheet of data is only valuable to an extent. What metrics do we need to consider? And what that allows us to do is amplify particular parts of the analysis for different purposes and lets us communicate that out to our peers, to our stakeholders, to get messages across the organization to help us make these decisions going forwards. So on to capture. And that is the first step to enable any application transformation, is actually capture that data in a centralized place. And it's the only way that you're going to conquer this challenge, capturing the data in a centralized location. And in order to do any of this, we don't just need to know what data to capture, but we need to be identifying exactly who needs to do the capturing of this data and where that data may currently reside. We need to know what stakeholders need to be kept up to date on our progress and what kind of metrics they want reported. Many organizations start their application transformation journey using Microsoft Excel to store their inventory data. But over time, the inventory is going to become more and more complex, and Excel, for as good as it is, it can become difficult to maintain, especially automatically updating data. It's just not as well supported in an Excel-based solution. So for companies with existing data stored in Excel, Abacus does become an ideal next step solution to remove that heavy lifting for data centralization. And Abacus will allow users to quickly export and import lists of applications and other data from Excel, as well as other sources, including SharePoint and Google Sheets. As architects, we can import your Visios, UML, BPMN, and other different diagrams and flowcharts into Abacus to create a connected set of systems and processes. And what you are able to do is update any element and it will flow through automatically into your repository. So you don't need to worry about revising tables, updating your list, or going through and editing diagrams and how they look and feel based on a value change. It will be done for you. And we've heard about how we can have live data updates on the diagrams. And in addition to that, you can integrate with third-party tools. And one of the biggest benefits of that is cutting out the manual labor and keeping the information up to date. And that could be, again, by the likes of ServiceNow and Technopedia, bringing that data in automatically. And we come on to the next point, and I'll not spend too long on this because I think this one is quite self-explanatory, but once you have all the data, how are you going to keep it updated? Are you going to be performing the same manual data capture techniques and just providing that again and again and again? Ideally not. Data owners are often needing quick access to these application lists, to see the status of the application, to update that data in order to work and deliver the application transformation projects. Providing manual reports we know can be laborious for not just the enterprise architecture teams, but for the organization as a whole. So instead, what we can do is embed personalized dashboards into your everyday workplace applications, such as Microsoft Teams, which we're all becoming more and more increasingly confident in using, or into your company intranet sites. And it's allowing architects and your everyday users to answer their questions very easily. So such things as who owns an application, who else actually uses this application, and which applications are at high risk of cyber attack. So you're giving an area to update live in a repository, which it's just so powerful in keeping that data up to date and giving a low to barrier entry. And once that's an ongoing feature in terms of we've captured the data, the maintenance, unfortunately, it doesn't go away. It's one thing that keeps us all in a job. But what we can start doing is analyzing this data. But how do we do that? What can we do to analyze? And within Abacus, we can automate calculations with algorithms. So Abacus provides the architect with that tool to track the health of application portfolios against whatever your chosen metrics are. They could be cost, could be reliability, it could be risk. Save yourself time and effort by automating any manual diagnostics that you might have done and calculations by using the analytics within Abacus, using the algorithms. And many standard calculations can be run straight out of the box with Abacus, or you can actually build your own calculations with the no-code visual algorithm composer. And this allows you to create your own algorithm, so your own calculations, and you can write the results back to your properties, back to your attributes on the components that are important to you. You may want to simply perform a sum of all of your costs or score all of your risks, or even perform a more complex APM assessment. All of these are possible in the algorithm composer. Once you've designed your algorithms, they can be set to run up automatically based on specific periods or based on any data changes. And it's always going to update your underlying data. And these algorithms and analytics, they really help to drive your stakeholder dashboards. And we're going to go on to that in a bit more detail. So if I move on, I'm actually looking at amplifying and communicating all of this kind of it's 2 points in one. And the reason I've combined this is hopefully apparent once I bring us on to Abacus Enterprise. Because what we're able to do is when I say amplify, we're really looking at honing in on particular subject areas of application transformation. And that amplification could be as simple as providing that area to update the data. But what we are providing as well is, in this instance, we've just got a catalog where we can update the data live. We've got a lot of information on here though. So what we are able to do is configure these views to show the data that is important to a particular group of users. So we might only want to see just life cycle properties. So I can remove anything that's in addition to here to, again, amplify a particular point of my application transformation roadmap. I might want to look at the application lifecycle financials. So scroll down here. I've got lots of properties that I could use that aren't being displayed currently. I could add these into here and create a financial perspective, focusing on that. I might actually realize that there's a certain metric that we need to record that we don't yet have. So I can start building that out by adding a new property. And I can do that live in my repository by adding in a new metric. I add that in there, and what we can see is it adds it to the end. Let's move that up because I think that's quite important. And I'm going to move that just next to the name. We add that in there, and one thing we'll see, this will reload, and there's a column for my new metric, so I can start editing my data live. And that's for all of your users to be able to provide that. Moving on from this, though, we might look at something that's a bit more reporting style in terms of keeping users up to date. So I'm going to move on to another dashboard here and have a look at this application overview. Now, these dashboards, we can have our catalogs on there, but you might want to build them in a bit more of a visual message with selected diagrams, in this case, an application interface diagram with different visualizations and charts. In this instance, I want to actually assess my applications that are due to be retired or eliminated. If I click on that one, it will apply a filter for me. And what you'll see is it actually filters down and gives me that honed in view, again, amplifying a particular point, in this case, my items that are due to be retired and eliminated. And it's filtered the diagram and the other portlets that we call them, whether it's a catalog or different visualizations. So now I'm only focusing on these applications marked to be retired or eliminated. And moving on, what we can do is actually keep this filter applied by going to another dashboard. You'll see my filter stays in place. So I want to continue looking at my retired applications, but now I can see it from a different perspective. I'm giving more options for my users to, again, drill into this data even further. I might actually want to see the items that are highly critical. I want to see the ones that are actually, as much as we've earmarked them for retirement, we actually have them in production still, so they're active. And now I've reduced my initial list of nearly 1,000 items to 34. So I can see all of this data here, and I can start making my assessments on a much more focused approach. But again, we might not want to end it just there. We might want to continue on to look at the life cycles of these applications. So all of these that are highly critical, still in production and due to retire, I can see already that their retirement date, we've got some of these that are still in production that are no longer in support. That for me is showing that there's a risk. And what I can do is actually filter down on here to anything that's, let's say, greater than 2021 or blank. I want to see those details. So you'll see when I scroll down, we've got all of these items that are due to retire within 2022 or that don't actually have dates. I can actually use this to start populating these dates. Again, updating that data live. In this instance, I'm not only able to update the data in terms of providing data against the applications, I can start to identify, well, application 470 is going to be retired or has been retired. It doesn't have a replacement. Do we need to have a replacement for it? I can communicate with my colleagues and we can actually decide, yes, that is going to be replaced. What is it going to be replaced by? Well, let's say this IVR application. And we create a connection directly within our catalog, all linking back into our repository, triggering any calculations that go with it. So it's all working live together. And you'll see all of these filters at the top, and I will remove these to show the full entirety of my application portfolio, so I can actually take that step back and I can start focusing on a different amplification route. The final point that I want to show in here is the timeline perspective that you might want to go down in terms of looking at your applications based on what they impact through their connected processes and capabilities. So we'll see if I drill down into my capabilities and into my processes, I can then see all of the applications that actually underpin that. And I might want to color these based on if this one here went end of life in 2020. I might want to find out what that one is, which is probably one of these here, and find out what we're going to do with that. So again, we're looking at different views, different ways of communicating the importance of various applications to our stakeholders. So we've started from identifying that data, looking at how we maintain it, analyzing it through various algorithms and simulations and different analytic methods, and then we're amplifying and communicating that out to our organization. It's 5 very simple steps that you can remember just to take forward. And that is all from me. So thank you very much for listening.